Welcome to the Deadlights podcast. I'm your host, Sam.
And I'm your other host, Leslie. And we're bringing you yet another week. Another week
of horror.
Beautiful. God damn.
I think that was the best intro song we've ever done.
We
had a couple across this podcast, but that was, I might say, lovely.
That was lovely.
It was lovely.
And welcome. Yeah.
Welcome. Yeah. Welcome to you and welcome to you. Welcome to me. Where are we at? What are we doing?
What did we watch?
We watched The Mummy from 1932, directed by Freund, written by John L. Bladerston. An Egyptian mummy searches Cairo for the girl he thinks is his long-lost princess. As we said, classic. Very classic. One of the, I would say, OG monster movies alongside Dracula, Frankenstein.
Did he also do Frankenstein?
This guy also did Frankenstein.
Yeah.
This guy, Boris Karloff, is definitely a huge name at this time as well. And there were multiple actors in this movie that spanned across these Universal monster movies at the time, and a couple that we've already seen in this podcast. So it's cool in one way to see how much of this Universal lot was thriving and pumping out these movies.
It was the studio system, a vast industrial complex of vertically integrated motion picture production, distribution, and exhibition entities.
And they built a dream factory whereby they created an assembly line type process of making motion pictures. Hundreds of them a year, each studio, and the appetite across the country was insatiable. The studio system ensured that all the actors, writers, directors, producers were pretty much employed from picture to picture, so they were able to focus on their art rather than on money.
In that way, it's cool. Now, the flip side of the Universal, movies is that they become a monopoly and they're controlling these actors' contracts and forcing them to be in these different movies. And at this time especially, we're not getting very good working conditions.
Dominated by the Big Five studios, all personnel including actors, crew, directors, and writers were under contract to the studios. During the Hollywood studio era, there was also the star system, which was when actors, under contract to a studio, would be sculpted by said studio to fit an ideal, one which could not be tarnished. To top it off, if you worked for the movie studios, you weren't paid by film, you had a contract and salary.
The breakup of this monopoly was stalled during World War II, so that the studio system would be used for propaganda purposes. But by the 1960s, the Big Five have been forced to sell off their chains.
So yeah, it's important to, I think, watch these movies. And I'm glad that we get to pull it because I have never seen this before.
Oh, nah.
Neither of us have seen this before. Never seen
Not
this.
me.
So it's cool in that respect that we get to watch a movie that neither of us have seen before and such a classic. And let's see what we think.
What do we think?
Of The Mummy.
Well.
Let's open up the can. Pour one out. Got all the sound effects.
Yeah,
in
we
there.
have our mummy coffee here.
A mummy coffee, yes. As you told me before we started, people used to eat mummies, consume them.
So they, around this time, were unlocking all of these mummies, and they thought that their ancient history, along with their bodies and culture, were able to give them youth if they were to consume.
According to Egyptologist Salima Ekrem, from the 12th century CE onward, a holocaust of the undying transpired in the Middle East, and especially in Europe. Most shocking of all, thousands of mummies perished in the apothecary's corpse grinder for use in medicine. They used it in the treatment of everything from headaches and erectile dysfunction to stomach ulcers and tumors. They drank it in tinctures, they mixed it into salves, and it takes no leap of faith to imagine these ground up human remains found their way into suppositories as well.
Just grinding up some mummies and just
Mm-hmm.
Can you pass the mummy salt?
Yeah. Just like fucking snort it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, I guess. And you said there's not much mummies around because
Because of these parties.
mummy parties.
That's cannibalism.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just because you're grinding it up doesn't mean that it's not, what it is.
Oh, sorry. Some tongue fell out. Okay. Well, the mummy. Like we already talked about, this is one of the classic Universal monster movies that we have at this time. And we get to see all the classic things that we get in a Universal monster movie. And, the big set pieces, the over dramatic actors, and the dramatic lighting and dramatic moves. We saw a lot of dramatic moves in this one.
Dramatic costumes, dramatic makeup.
They have the budget to make these things custom for each movie. So many times we were looking at it and be like, oh God, sick set. Cool set.
Fucking cool. Cool props. Cool mechanics.
Something in particular that I saw them playing with was definitely silhouetting people.
Yeah.
And heavy lighting, especially at the beginning when Imhotep, the mummy, played by Boris Karloff, is running around trying to scheme to get these things together so he can resurrect his lost princess. We're getting a lot of lighting from below.
That face is just so iconic. And that's why I was just like, wait a minute. Yeah, that looks like Frankenstein. Because he's shot the same way.
Yeah. He's such a imposing figure. He's tall, first of all.
Tall.
The lines in his face just feel like they hold a lot of like wisdom and mystery in a way. He's a very mysterious, overbearing kind of figure in all the movies that he was in at this time. So he's the iconic mummy. He's also Frankenstein. He's also in The Black Cat, which we saw on this podcast before as well.
Wait,
he's
what?
the satanic priest.
He is. That's so cool.
I know. And while we're going down this road, Frank, also in The Black Cat and Dracula, Dr. Mueller in this movie, his name is Frank von Sloan, and he also plays Van Helsing in Dracula. So we got all these guys popping around all these different movies around the lot that were going on at the same time.
Crazy.
But yeah, it's cool. I think that for Boris Karloff in particular, he was being cast around because he's a great monster. He's a great just figure to have there to be scary.
Not until you are about to pass through the great night of terror and triumph. Until you are ready to face moments of horror for an eternity of love.
Although I think nowadays everything is like sped up and like fast. So their movements as like the acting were just too slow for me. I wanted them to like pick it up.
How did I get here?
We brought you here, Father and I. You fainted.
Yes. I promise to wait until you get here. Goodbye.
Helen, where have you been? We've been so worried. We've hunted everywhere.
For some reason, this one felt like the performances, yes, they were doing kind of the typical play-like movements that we've seen before, but everyone felt kind of flat. Frank, this kind of like handsome, boyish guy, that's all he really was, and there wasn't much dimension to his character at all.
You know, I'd have liked Egypt better if I'd met you there. No such luck. Stuck in the desert for 2 months, and was it hot? That too.
Dr. Mueller character literally only came in and gave information.
So Imhotep was sentenced to death not only in this world, but in the next.
Maybe he got too gay with the Vestal Virgins in the temple.
Possibly.
And even when he was delivering that information, it felt just very like encyclopedia, like just reading it rather than, oh, I'm figuring this out. And then Helen, our female lead, who's being, pulled to Imhotep because he thinks he can resurrect his princess in her. They weren't really trying to give us anything more than she was the damsel in distress.
I have never felt so alive before.
Then as your doctor, I must order you to go.
I'm not a child.
Yes, please come.
The only person that I really felt like gave somewhat of a good performance was the father character, Joseph.
We didn't come to dig in Egypt for medals. Much more is learned from studying bits of broken pottery than from all the sensational finds. Our job is to increase the sum of human knowledge of the past, not to satisfy our own curiosity.
When the mummy came to be and he realized that his son was at danger because he was falling in love with the object of Imhotep's desire, he then even had more motivation.
The curse has struck her, and now through her, it will strike my son.
Quiet.
His character felt like he had the most stakes in everything. And so I felt like his performance was like, okay, I'm getting something out of this. And then they just killed him off.
Yeah, you were just like, no, the only good character.
The best character. They killed off Daddy.
Daddy, no.
And then we're left with these two really flat characters to be the heroes. I was just kind of disappointed that those were the characters that we were left with. It was an exciting finish to beat the mummy, but I was like, oh, these guys get all the glory? Okay.
These guys.
Yeah. A lot of this stuff I think is suffering from the times, because at this time they weren't thinking about that. Mm-mm. And every story was going to end with the good-looking young guy coming in and saving the day. So in that sense, from the 1932 lens, I can see why this movie went that direction. You know, they gave the good-looking young guy more motivation to defeat the mummy, along with he's in love with the female character.
I feel like they like really dumbed him down.
But you're going to get well. Then I know I can make you love me. I know I can make you happy.
That's what I'm saying. I think that was a weird performance of the young strapping guy. Like, he was like immediately laying on her.
Oh, I know it seems absurd when we've known each other such a short time, but I'm serious.
Don't you think I've had enough excitement for one evening without the additional thrill of a strange man making love to me?
I don't know. It just seemed a little desperate.
I mean, didn't I make the joke of like it being 2 days of them knowing each other? And he was like, but I love you. And it's just like, ugh, what? Whoa.
Do you know her last name? I know you know her first name. You're screaming it everywhere.
Helen! Helen! Helen!
I think that was a combination of suffering from the performance, but also the script. I think that it wasn't given enough time for us to feel like a relationship developed there, plus two flat actors. It's happening between two flat actors. But going back to the original point, this is what audiences are expecting at this time. So I don't think
look-wise as well.
Look-wise as well. And so I don't think it matters really to a wider audience that these performances are falling flat, because this is what they're expecting to happen. Us looking back on it now, obviously we're being more critical about it because we've seen almost 100 years of film after this. So I can somewhat forgive it for that, and I can see what they're going for.
In the interest of science, even if I believed in the curse, I go on with my work for the museum.
Let us get into the meat of this thing. And it's a classic old story, you know, of man trifling with things that he has no business trifling with, and digs up a ancient mummy that is here to wreak havoc on people and bring back the dead. What are the consequences of your actions?
A curse.
Literally, it says on the box, don't open this.
You will be
cursed.
Yeah.
Let's open it.
Well, let's open it. It's like, what part did you not understand?
Eternal punishment for anyone who opens this casket. Good heavens, what a terrible curse.
Well, let's see what's inside. Do not touch that casket.
Go on with your cataloging. We'll open it later.
They drove it home, actually, a couple times, that talking about what these artifacts are for, you know? Mm-hmm. Are we going to these places in pursuit of knowledge, learning, trying to better people by learning things from the past? Or are we going there to claim them as treasures and put them in our museums and use them as trophies of, like, look at the places that we've conquered? So that was actually, I think, talked about a little bit in this movie through some of the lines.
I think it's a dirty trick, this Cairo Museum keeping everything we found.
That was the contract. The British Museum works for the cause of science, not for loot.
What I did find interesting, though, is that the reason that Imhotep is condemned in the first place, we learn, is because he is trying to bring back someone from the dead. He also is messing with forces that he should not be messing with.
I knew the scroll of thought could bring me back to life. I dared the god's anger and stole it.
There is this weird thing that I don't think the movie is aware of. That, like, yeah, this movie is very much highlighting, like, white colonization in these places. You know, like, all these people are white people in this movie, and they're saying that they're Egyptian. It's kind of like this weird, like, meta thing that, like, this movie deals so much with us going to other places and conquering them and taking their artifacts as our treasures. But that is kind of also what is going on in this movie, of just, like, using these people's stories for our success. So it's a weird thing to grapple with when watching these movies. Again, it's of the time.
Well, like, we needed, I guess, to think about anything else. We were in a depression. Just like we needed something to just kind of take us out of it.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. It's escapism. And I think that that's why Universal was so successful at this time as well. You know, they were the ones who were pushing these out. So,
I mean, just think about it. Their whole logo is a plane going around a world. We tell universal stories.
We're everywhere.
But do not give the actual people a chance who we're trying to portray.
No. We'll control that. We'll take care of that.
Yeah. You'll never know how they actually look like.
No. But look at the pretty lights and you'll be happy.
Wow.
Yes. All right. Well, let's get to the cook.
Yeah. Let's cook it up.
Let's cook it up. Let's cook it up. Let's cook it up. One thing that I do somewhat enjoy about these Universal movies, pretty much all of them are like this. They start right at the beginning of the story, and then when it's over, it's just like the end. There's no like, ooh, what happened to them afterward? Nope, we kill the monster, we're out. It's a very much we're on the ride immediately.
Oh yeah. And also what's really frustrating too, about just like having all these artifacts is that no one is wearing gloves. Everybody's just smelling it and licking it, apparently.
Really touching. Everyone's really just getting
very handsy.
Yeah.
We Egyptians are not permitted to dig up our ancient dead. Only foreign museums.
And then at the end, we have this very like Deus Machina moment. Like literally the gods intervene to save the day.
I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all.
Yeah. There was no heroes.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's definitely not a satisfying ending.
and then she gets back. She like gets with the other guy, and I'm just like, I don't know. Why is it always that if we're trying to highlight, quote unquote, a woman, she's always in between two guys?
There was a lot of fucking dudes in her face in this movie.
So many, just literally staring at her.
Just like getting in.
It was uncomfortable.
Save me from it, Frank. Save me.
Oh, everything's going to be all right. Now that you've asked for help, I'll never leave you alone.
This love story between Helen and Frank very much felt forced. I wasn't getting much from either of them, so I wasn't rooting for them to get together. And yeah, I guess it makes sense that they end up together at the end, but I don't know. I was just like, okay, that's the formula.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
And which we've just seen over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. I think that this movie like really falls in line of like following to a T their formula of making a monster movie. And we have all the same characters that you would have. You got the love interest, you have the monster, you have the good-looking guy, you have the expert, you have the father figure. It almost felt like they were following the formula too much because then there was nothing else except that. And we were left just having to accept it because that's how it is. I also am thinking about the other movies that we've seen at this time. And I feel like I haven't felt like I've left those movies feeling as unsatisfied as I have for this one. I thought that it was shot great and looked cool.
That's about it. That truly is.
I like some of the effects. The looking glass of the mummies was
so cool.
Really cool.
That whole sequence though of him telling her the story of who she is, I thought was way too long.
Oh my God.
Bast must again send forth death. Death to that boy for whom love is creeping into your heart. Love that would keep you from myself.
I still don't understand the logistics of that. Of, him wanted to resurrect another body, but like she already has a body, and he's able to hypnotize her so he can,
Yeah, it was a little convoluted.
Your soul is in a mortal body, renewed many times since we loved in Thebes of old. But that love is not for us again until the great change. The ancient rites must be performed over thy body. Then I will read the great spell with which Isis brought Osiris back from the grave, and thou shalt rise again. I ask of thee only a moment of agony. Only so can we be united.
He is going to kill her and make her a living mummy like himself.
It was a little too much.
Yeah. Why not just wait until like she's on her deathbed and then resurrect her?
Yeah. Well, he wanted to keep that young Helen. He wanted that young. Boris.
She kept saying, "I'm too young to die.
I'm young. I won't die."
Why don't we get to the thrill? Why don't we talk about the mummy? The mummy, the monster.
The
here.
monster.
I think some of the cooler parts of this movie, for sure, were with the mummy. We got to see his lair and some of his magic that he can do with his big looking glass pool, and it seems like he can control people's hearts, I guess.
The way that he just was like reaching out.
Yeah. And again, how they're lighting Boris Karloff is just, it's great. It's adding to this sinister monster that we have running around.
He shoots well.
That does go back to Boris Karloff's success at this time. He's a great guy to shoot. Honestly, like, his performance is pretty flat. He doesn't do much. He really just stands there and lets them shoot around him and stares. And that's enough.
You can tell a beautiful story through lighting.
Absolutely.
When it looks good, even if it's in black and white, you can fucking tell. So
Looks good.
yeah, I think we did a beautiful job through the lighting. That kind of like story was great.
Yeah. And also, they use something to kind of make him look aged through most of the movie. But the first time that we see him in the sarcophagus, he's like really mummied up, and that looks awesome.
I couldn't tell from the actual prop and him. You know, there was just a bit of a distinguish. And then I was just like, oh, yeah, that looks freaking real.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they did great job.
Nailed
Great
the mummy.
job.
I would say the mummy factor of this they definitely nailed. Scary? No.
I mean,
I'm trying to think of like a scary sequence, you know?
I mean, I think that them showcasing the spear going through would have been enough violence.
Yeah, that was actually pretty good effect.
Yeah.
That looked pretty good.
And there was blood.
Yeah.
I didn't think we were going to see blood
No.
at all. So I know that was maybe like very jarring to some people.
Yeah, I actually was not expecting that. That was like
Because the first kill that we got off screen.
True.
We just heard it. And I was like, oh, okay, that's right. We are probably not going to see a lot of violence, just screams and implication.
Shadows.
Yeah, shadows.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the only scene that I think would have been scary back in the day.
Yeah.
I don't know. Obviously not now. We're terrible human beings now.
True. True that. We're desensitized.
Yeah.
And us especially.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think he was a good monster, but I don't know. Yeah, there just weren't many like tense scenes, I feel like. He was just kind of there. You know? And he's scary looking, but
Look. He shot well.
As we've said, shot good.
So yeah.
Let's get to the ride.
Right,
Let's get to the final ride. Nice. I think that this movie, I don't know, we're kind of already harping on it already. I think that it felt like a little bit we were going through the motions sometime for this movie. The lighting and the set design and the costumes, production design in general, was definitely keeping me with it.
I really enjoyed our hero boy. His like shirt and like pants.
Yes.
He just looked suave.
Yeah.
Didn't act like it.
No.
He was a fucking stupid ass boy. I wanted to throw him out the window.
Yeah. Great explorer clothes though.
Yeah. You look cool, refresh.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
That's it.
Yeah.
It. The Mummy.
I have a number.
Yeah.
Oh,
all right. Wow. Let's get to the Smash Pumpkin then. Let's go. Jumping into it. All right. You got a number. Give it to me. You're ready.
I'm gonna give it a 3.
3. 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5.
For all those reasons?
For all those reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know. I really enjoyed it. And I was able to forgive it just a little bit more because of that.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely wrong. Just kidding. No, I agree.
We usually don't disagree, and I would love for us to disagree.
Wrong. Yeah, it's true.
Because at this point, I feel like people think that we're just agreeing with each other.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
I also was gonna give.
Yes. I'm trying to think of what I want to give it. I don't know. To me, I'm still pissed. To me, I think that for some reason I want to be a little harder on it.
Yeah.
And like I said before, I feel like we've seen movies at this time where I don't feel like the performances are as flat as these performances were. I don't know. It felt like all these characters were like just so one-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, I was really upset when the father character, the character that I liked the most, got killed off in such like, oh, choked his heart kind of way. And I was like, oh, man, like he really had something to fight for. And then we just kill him off. And so, yeah, I was kind of disappointed by that. And I will agree with you completely on the aesthetics of this movie. I think great aesthetics, looked awesome. And Boris Karloff looked great as the Mummy. I think I'm going to give it a 2.
Ooh.
2.
I knew it. I like felt a 2 or a 2.5.
See, we disagree. We don't always agree.
0.5.
Right? I just did all that just to make people think that we disagree. Yeah.
No, that's cool.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Let's see what we got next week, huh?
Ooh,
I think it's you. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Let's see what we got. What do you want? What do you want?
I want like. No.
Okay. I don't know what you're thinking. Okay.
I was going to say the ocean, and I was like, no, I really don't want that.
The ocean. Oh, I think it's Shark Week when we're recording this, but...
Sharknado!
Fuck, that'd be crazy if you picked it.
All right. Amy, a young woman, is on the run with her young son, Adrian, from her abusive ex-girlfriend. When the past rises up to haunt them, they must confront the forces threatening them from both outside and in.
Oh, boy. That's not Sharknado.
That's not Sharknado at all.
What year are we talking here?
2022. So very recent.
We get a lot of recent ones recently.
Yeah. Recently. We've been getting recently.
I don't know.
Oh my God. We're getting a lot of these kind of like titles.
Oh, it's another long one or something?
They wait in the dark.
They wait in the dark.
She came from the woods.
They wait in the dark.
There's someone outside. No, I'm just kidding.
There's someone inside the house. Wow, okay. Cool.
Yeah, I've never heard of this movie. I don't think.
Me either. And I put it in the bucket.
Cool beans.
How did that happen?
At this point, AI is just like giving us all of the horror films.
They're just these are AI movies. These aren't real movies, actually. For some of these movies, that would make sense.
Oh yeah, the terrible. Yeah, maybe it is.
That's it.
That's all I could muster out of that. That terrible movie.
Movies, the terrible. All right, cool. Well, I guess we will see next week.
All right.
What it will be.
Oh, yeah. Let's
anyway, in the meantime, you can call us. You
can call us.
Yes.
At 773-669-6677. And you can follow me at Color Me Leslie.
And me at Beep Beep Richie T. Mm-hmm. You can follow us at the Deadlights Pod. Yeah. But until next time, let's get spooky. Imhotep.